Hello, and we are back. Another SLB show for you this week. Louis and Mitch are back. My name's Grant, and we're here for the full discussion of what's going on. A couple of topics that need to be spoken about. But firstly, guys, how are you both? Louis, you good?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you, Grant?
Yes, very good. And Mitch, he'd been missing for a couple of weeks. Back last week, back again. Mitch, how are you?
I'm good. 2 weeks in a row. It's like some record for me at this point. Good weekend of games though. Good fun games across the board.
Absolutely. It's a small slate of games, but we now know who will be the teams competing in the first showpiece final of the season in Birmingham. We've obviously going to have, if you've not watched the games, why are you listening to this yet? But Newcastle Eagles and the London Lions were victorious in the weekend in the doubleheader or two-legged semi-finals. So, yeah, Mitch, let's start with what game? Let's go Bristol, London. What was your thoughts on that one? And was it one of these ones where London did the work in day one and just maintained for the second leg? Is that potentially fair?
I think so, but Bristol showed a lot of fight. The first game, it was. You watched the game back in the first half. It was a very sluggish, slow game across the board, which played right into Bristol's favour. They're right in that game. London just turned the screws in the second half, got a good advantage and pushed ahead with it. Second leg in Bristol. I think it's a habit we're seeing. The second legs are always a bit more spicy, and the home team always gets a little bit more favour. And we'll talk about it with Cheshire as well, obviously. Bristol were making really fine margins, and at one point they cut that aggregate down all the way. They were within one shot of tying the game on aggregate to be right in it and have a chance to get through. But then London must have been listening to last week when I said to start stomping on the throats a little bit. They just stepped up and just put the foot there and said, enough's enough. We're taking this.
Yeah, and obviously London this week announcing that Ryan McSell's away and Luzansky is permanently joined their roster for the season.
Lucas Younis.
Lucas Younis, so it is. Sorry,
I've even called Polish.
I know. I commentated on him last 2 weeks ago. Lucas Younis. Brian McSell came into London this season. You were a huge fan of him coming up from Germany into our league and expected big things. Why do you think it's just not worked? Is it just all that injury that you had? You did have major surgery on his spine.
Yeah, that could be a big portion, but I just kind of think their need kind of shifted because Mike Sell was more of a just like a secondary or like tertiary kind of scorer at kind of like the 3 or the 4 spot, really. And I think elsewhere with especially guys like Aaron Wright kind of stepping up, that the kind of need shifted, and with Lucas Younis's kind of shot making, I think that kind of just altered a little bit of what they needed, kind of so to speak. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of keep track of how they kind of go forward from here. Do
you think they replace him, or is that them done? Is Lucas Younis there? Do you think they bring anyone else?
I'd assume so. I'd still assume kind of like the 3-4 because they still don't have, because their options at the 4 spot currently are kind of like a Dean Williams or like a Joel Scott, and there's not really much. Like Mike Sell had a little bit of that kind of more skill to his game, more handling, etc., more creation, like on ball, like dribbling. So that's like a deficit that they could look to correct, basically, with another addition. So there we go.
Especially with Euro Cup.
So,
and I suppose we've got. It's the early of January. They've still got plenty of times before like the transfer window slams shut, I suppose. But at times, London, Dean Williams to me, it just continues to just impress. Louis, you've been a massive fan of Dean Williams for years, and we all want him to turn out for GB hopefully soon. But what do you rate about his game?
It's just his length, length at that kind of like combo forward spot. I really wasn't expecting him to be as like he showed things this season. I think that he hadn't shown from other teams, with other teams, because he's had to take on, especially in the SLB, which you kind of expect, but he's had to take on a little bit more of an offensive role rather than just being essentially like stuck as like another wing on the perimeter, kind of like spot up or cuts basically with other teams. Now he's had to create a little bit more for himself, which I think has been really cool. But it's just his defense. You know, he's just a really solid defender, massive wingspan, very vertically athletic. So as a secondary like rim protector, that's really valuable to have. Really good defensively in the post and just very versatile. So that's kind of his core like addition. So yeah.
And when we look across at Bristol, Mitch, when we see almost how important in the second leg especially, it felt like players like a Joe Anderson, point guard, really kind of dragging them back into the game, sharing the ball. Will Yoakum's another one that just keeps kind of impressing as well.
Massively so. I think Joe Anderson for me really stood out as just kind of being, he almost kind of was the Tariq Phillip for Bristol in that game. Just so stubborn and just continually fighting through everything. Like just wasn't willing to back down. And I think it made so much difference to keep them rallying back to fight for every single opportunity. And Yoakum, as you said, had a massive factor as well. There's obviously home second leg, things get physical, it's getting testy, things are going to happen. Wasn't quite as physically pushing as much as the Cheshire leg, but it was a tough game and they fought hard, but they led the charge by far.
Absolutely. I mean, we look at the other game, we just began to touch on it there, Newcastle coming through against Cheshire. And this was another game that very much second leg, Cheshire were really good at trying to target the score. I don't think they led in the tie, did they? No, they never got fully back and ahead, did they? But they got a couple of times within a shot or two. But why? I think we've asked this question before, Mitch. You watched that game quite closely on whatever day of the week, Sunday. Why? And you've been there as on a bench, as a fan, whatever else. Why are games so? And we asked this question the other week. May have just been last week, but why do you think they're just so tense at times and so emotive? And do you want to know what I was surprised at as well? It was in the fourth quarter. I think it was Maceo Jack on the fast break, and his proper excitement. And we saw that with Larry Austin when he was at Newcastle against Cheshire, and then the flip of that last season when he was back at Cheshire against Newcastle. Like, is this the new big derby? Oh, not derby, but big rivalry we've got? I think it's a couple of questions in there, Mitch. Go.
Sorry. I mean, okay, in terms of this being the big derby, it feels like any team from that area going into Cheshire makes it a derby. We think about the games they've had against Sheffield this year already. We think about the games they've had against Manchester this year already. Like, Newcastle are just another one to add to the pile. Like, for me, I think it could be between Newcastle or Sheffield being the team that's really their rivalries there with them, because they seem to be the games where the most passion comes out. In terms of why it's a difficult place to play, and why teams struggle, because let's be honest, Newcastle nearly stumbled and lost it in the last couple of minutes of that game. Some very costly mistakes, almost really badly punished them. For me, looking at it, why, I think it's how the fans that are there get so emotionally invested in the team that everything, good or bad, everything, they're always on their side and they're so passionate, and they're not a quiet crowd. They make it difficult. I mean, the year I was with the Gladiators when we were there and we were in the playoffs against them, and every time behind the bench, drums are banging, everyone's yelling, music's blasting, you couldn't focus. And I can't imagine that would be any different as it was for Mark and the Newcastle guys of the weekend. It's impressive to get a much crowd in that. The crowd almost is the sixth man, as they constantly mention enough, that it's that passion and that emotion rallying behind you constantly. I don't know if there's many places else in the league I've seen it where it's that effective, really.
Yeah. So obviously Cheshire took that. That was such a high-scoring game. 112-105 victory. Patrick Robinson, though, 40 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, an index of 43. we talked about him last week, didn't we? About his impact.
What's that?
But my gosh, him playing near enough, or he played over 39 minutes and 2 seconds. But Louis, you're one that's been not overly impressed, but really impressed by him. What does he give the Knicks that's different to maybe an Quincy or any other player?
Just like pure heat going to the rim. Just like his scoring rate, to be a little bit nerdy, his scoring rate and his efficiency is just like unparalleled. Like in my in the stats database that I have, he's got basically one of the highest like self-created like possession rates out of anyone, and he's also one of the most efficient at it, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
but he's just like an absolute like flamethrower going to the rim. Like you just can't stop him. Like he's very one-handed. Like if you watch him, he always finishes with his left.
Sounds like a bit of Raymond Fletcher.
I was just about to say.
Raymond Fletcher.
I don't know why.
Let's
Ramon.
Let's go. I thought you were talking about Raymond Felton for a second. But anyway, yeah, like he's just basically an impossible to stop going to his left, and teams just keep on giving him that lane. So yeah, he's just a killer, basically. Pure and simple.
Correct if I'm wrong. I think I heard Dan say it over the comms? Was that not a career night for him? I think it's a career high before it was 31. So I think
yeah,
there's
probably.
I feel like there's not been that many 40. I think 40-point games this season. Like there's that.
Especially like our 60-point games, really.
Yeah,
I generally can't think of many people going that crazy. Someone will correct us.
No.
But when you look,
career high.
What were you going to say? Sorry, Mitch, say that again.
I think that was Pat's career high individually ever. The league's ever had that many before, so that's credit to him for that.
Yeah, because it's usually off the bench in college, so that does make sense. But anyway, continue, finish, whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think he's finished. All right. And when we look at the other side, Newcastle made a bit of a switch in their lineup. There's not been many games where Rayshon Taylor and Mitch Clark have come off the bench. Burden Jr. just kind of getting his feet under the and 13 points. What did he finish? 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Good game from him. Maceo Jack, 2-point or 3.1, whatever I'm calling him this season. Coming back and haunting his past team with 20 points, 8 rebounds. He did have 4 turnovers. But Cole Long, we don't talk about Cole Long very often. But going 6 from 8 from 3. And some of them, he was wide open at times. But some of them were around the screen, off the run, off whatever. And you're just like, he proper wanted his team to get to that final. Mitch.
That's what back-to-back finals, and he's been on both teams. And that was just, it just felt like every shot was going in for the 3-point line. Like, it was impressive. Like, you look at some of the shots in the feed and you're watching him taking them, you're like, it's a good shot for him because he's open, but also, like, it's not like a high percentage 3-point shot he's taken, but it's going in. So after the first couple fall, you're like, okay, just run him off the 3-point line. Just don't let him shoot any more threes. Happens again and again.
Eagles as a team shot 8 from 23. Cole Long made 6 of them.
That's just mad.
That is mental, isn't it?
But it does show that like they don't rely on that 3-point shot to win games. But if you think about it, if he hadn't scored that many 3-pointers, they're probably not in that final.
Yeah. Those shots are so important because when you look at, I think it was Paul Selly hit 2 in a row. Obviously, Jackson Brentley, he can put them up as well. If you're Cheshire looking at this, is your frustration obviously towards the first leg of just having that, not too big a gap, but too big a gap to make it work? Or is that where they need to look to see, okay, what can we do defensively to stop Newcastle scoring like they did?
Well, I mean, to kind of get onto the core point of what we literally just touched on, I mean, letting, Cole Long get 6 threes on like like I was just watching like quite open looks, like just letting him get to 3-point looks, like literally off a go screen, etc. Like it's not good. Like you have to stop that somehow. But in the first leg, not to give them an excuse, but Pat Robertson looked a little bit, I don't know, a little bit off, I feel. But yeah, like I feel like this really was like a good showcase of kind of, I mean, watching it really felt like they do play quite a similar style. If you take away like the transition element, they really do like to attack matchups. Really, in ISO, they really love to do that, and it was really quite interesting. Like because Newcastle have a lot of like strong physical bodies.
Yeah,
like it really does make that kind of, if you play that way against them, it makes it really quite tough. And I felt like in the first leg, especially, that kind of came back to haunt them, where they didn't have as good as a offensive game. Mind you, they really did attack like Burden quite a lot, I feel like in the post especially. But yeah, I feel like it was quite an interesting showcase of kind of two similar styles that, well, led to Newcastle winning in the end, I suppose so.
Yeah, let's talk just at our first real mention of the final. We'll obviously do a preview in the week leading up to the final. But London versus Newcastle, when you initially hear that matchup, what's your first thoughts?
Hopefully not a blowout. Hopefully it's a game.
I mean, Newcastle defending champs.
Yeah, I mean, okay, joking aside.
Stutz has won plenty of silverware in Newcastle.
I hope they do it. I hope they do it, Newcastle.
To me, in a one-off game, we've seen London get defeated at home to Manchester.
Without Joel Scott, they're vulnerable.
Yeah, but he must be. His 12 weeks. Like, I feel he must be. Maybe he's close. He's not going to be. Yeah, he won't be thrown in. But it was a 10 to 12 week injury, wasn't it? So
yeah,
and that's been at least. That was November, I would say. So he's getting potentially closer, but especially they haven't been down a player anyway. They've had injuries. But you know what players like a Tyreek Phillips in a final can do. You know what Aaron Rye can do. So I suppose this is when big players step up, isn't it? And I'm curious to see Newcastle, have they got what it takes, depending on their roster depth and availability, to compete with London? And the answer is yes. If Newcastle can get going, and if they are now, they look like the last two games now, Taylor and Mitch Clark, for example, coming off the bench, they've kind of maybe settled on that Canway in the starting lineup. And I'm just really curious to see what this Newcastle Eagles version, probably 3 now, can do.
Yeah. To kind of, sorry, Mitch, I will let you get to it, but because I have some pressing thoughts. So I think, like I was touching on, they are quite, like, their offense is quite ISO driven. They're very, they like to attach matchups basically, and against London, I feel like that is very tough. I think that's why Newcastle. Well, actually, no, Newcastle won in the playoffs last season. So maybe not, but I feel like success in that game will be very much. I feel like a lot of it will be like quite Burden dependent, if that kind of makes sense, because of his ability to kind of create offense, especially downhill, and get depth. Like against Bristol, I feel like one of the key reasons why they're able to play against them so well is because of Joe Anderson. Like Mitch was saying, Joe Anderson being this like agile, like shifty guard that can, like, versus other guards in our league, is very safe with his handle. Is very shifty and agile, which makes it with London's like aggressive ball screen coverage, it makes it like it's better to have a guard like Joe Anderson or Terrell Burden, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's quite that's going to be quite an interesting angle. Obviously, Newcastle have the physical bodies to compete against London. So if they play physically, and really get into them and play with an intensity, like, defensively, they should compete as long as they're secure in their defense, because they've had quite a lot of issues like with help defense and kind of rotations in the season, I feel like. But there are ways that Newcastle can compete, and I hope we see that in the game. So yeah, that's my piece.
And I suppose they're getting healthier. Okafor's missed games. He's now back. It feels like maybe the only one missing is kind of Josh Ward-Hibbert. Unless I've missed anyone else out, which I don't think I have. So if he's back in time, don't know on the status of him, that feels like that experienced part that could really help them. Plus playing against his former team always kind of spurs him up. Maceo Jack seems to have set I'm trying to think if it's a Newcastle player this game hinges on, and it might be if they've settled in this starting five, is it what a Rayshon Taylor can do? Because I feel like he's kind of suited to coming off the bench. Is that fair?
If he puts up a game like that, either on the weekend or 24 minutes, 22 points, I mean, I think pretty much any team in the league would take that off the bench as your sixth man. So, or seventh man, I would take that in a heartbeat. That'd be the value that can bring is massive. It's hard to pick one player, but I think we could see a bunch of players step up for both teams. London's defensive style is slightly different to that of Cheshire. Cheshire's a bit more in your face physicality wise, while London's just big and long and just pressure filled. I feel like I don't see the same amount of like physical contact and handsy defense from London as I do from Cheshire, but they're just harder to get around. And because they're forcing that stuff, all Cheshire's hitting you the whole way. Like, let's see what happens. Fight us.
And Birmingham, and even when you think of like the final venue, like there is I'm sure Dan Routledge has said this before. Someone has. Like, obviously they have it's only really you've got the curtain at one end and then they kind of wrap around at the other, and you go, like it does kind of matter at times. Like I can never remember what side's the easier one to shoot into. Like it almost depends. What are you going to say?
If I remember correctly, I think the curtain side is the worst side to shoot. I think. So if you're, I think I can't remember. I've not been there for a few years. But last time I was there, I'm pretty sure the side with the curtain was an absolute nightmare to shoot on. It was the other way.
I can't remember. Curious to see how a team settle into it. Like that could be it. It's like who's got the experience of being there. And you go, Newcastle as a club have more recently. Obviously, London have won there as well. I think it's a really curious, really good matchup for a final. I'm really excited for it. Should be a good spectacle of the game. A couple of guys and people, or guys, gals, who and everyone in between, have said they're going to the game. So on the 1st of Feb, the Utilita. What are you going to say, Mitchie?
One last question, just for you guys. Get your thoughts on this. This being Sabonis's first game as a head coach in a final, do we think that's going to be a factor here or no?
I think so. I generally do. It's all about. I mean, you've got experience beside him and his coaching team, but then you've got Stutz, who's won often and defending champs there. Like, yeah. And I did their first game in this tournament, and that was, I mean, this interview never saw the light of day. Somehow the sound didn't match the visual. And he said about it being that we're coming to win again, defend our champion, or be the reigning champs and do well. And they really have. So,
I mean, I feel like, from my opinion anyway, from watching Newcastle, they almost seem more likely to stumble at the semis or the quarters than they actually are in the final. I feel like they perform better in that one-off game than they do in this. So that's been a couple of years now where they've now had semi-finals where they've almost thrown the game away at the end. They just made some mistakes that nearly cost them dearly near the end of the game. But then they get to the final and they just step up. mean, we saw what they did to Bristol last year, and they've not beaten London yet, but there'll be a game where they're going, bring it. So anything can happen. Let's just go for it.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on. How far can Surrey go? Surrey went into the Cannon Medical Arena and beat the Sheffield Sharks. I don't think many followers around the league would have called that one in this when you've got second bottom against one of the top three sides. Surrey have added Tyrone Lawrence. Start, Louis, tell us what we should expect from Surrey's newest man.
Shifty 6'4" combo guards that will fill in the boots of Kareem Queeley. I think is like the shortest kind of way of thinking about it. Athletic. He almost had a poster dunk in the Sheffield game, if I remember correctly. He was very dangerous in transition, kind of like a lefty guard that is looking to kind of probe in the pick and roll, be like slow tempo, kind of feel things out a little bit, but look primarily at the end to kind of get to the rim on the left side. Decent passer, but more so kind of like a scoring guard, I feel like. But it will be interesting to kind of see how he works with the other guards like Ron Polite and Keno Lilly. So I think a big part of it, his addition is going to be kind of letting Keno Lilly play more off ball, which I think will be really cool to see. Kind of like him running off screens, like flare screens, like pin downs, etc. Which would be cool. Yeah, and defensively, I think it's going to be a big addition to their back line. You know, just as another like defensive body, and he will enable them to play with three guard lineups. You know, with Keno and obviously Ron. So yeah, direct me, Grant.
But is he someone that moves the needle for Surrey? Like, does he move the needle that much?
To be quick, yes.
Yes. How far? Does he, like, when we think of that, and we're going to touch on this next when we look at, like, the games this weekend are huge. Surrey have got two big games, first at home to Bristol before being on the road to the Gladiators. Does he shift the needle enough that Surrey, I mean, all this weekend could change everything we're talking about next week about how Surrey are potentially at the foot of the table. Not really because percentage of games played, but you know what I mean? Like, this feels like a big couple of weeks for them. They've got a new addition in. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Owen Kuntz. He just seems to continually be injured. Like, what unlucky thing to have as your rookie season, and your heart goes out to him and think hopefully he can get himself sorted. But he's also probably not been near enough for Surrey for them to feel his absence. So this new player, Tyrone Lawrence, coming in around about the players who are there, does it move the needle enough where you're talking about Surrey getting into that midfield battle? Mitch?
I think it's definitely possible. When you look at the standings, where they're at, they're only, one game behind Newcastle. They win their next game, they're tied with Newcastle for 7th place.
Yep.
They're one game behind Leicester. If Leicester drop one, that's then tied up. If they win if they win both games this weekend, they're basically all in line with Bristol for mid-table.
Which is insane.
Yeah, that's wild to think, but it shows you the possibilities that Surrey have, and I think Louis touched on it. I think the impact he can bring, just have as another tool to add to Surrey's roster, that's just going to make it so much more challenging for other teams to stop. But they've got two big games this weekend. They need to get 2 wins. If they get 2, they're looking at mid-table.
Apologies, the Gladiators can't catch them this weekend. I forgot they only had. The table I looked at earlier didn't have the Sheffield game on it. Sorry, continue, Mitch. Sorry.
No, but if they lose, if Surrey lose to Gladiators, they're only going to be at minimum 2 games behind. If they lose both, then it's only 1 game behind.
Yep.
Like, there's still a chance that if this isn't what we think it is, if Surrey did fall down, then they wouldn't be far off the Gladiators. But they've got 3 games in hand. All it takes them to get away is to win 2 of those games.
It feels like if they, and I'm Tyrone Lawrence, for what I saw in Sheffield, he impressed. Like, he just added to the flow of their whole game plan.
I mean, he literally just was asked to
arrived.
stand in the corner. I mean, he still ended up with 15 points or 17 points, and I was just like, what the hell?
And you go, but so if they win both their games this weekend and the results go in their favour, they're legit sitting 6th place.
Yeah.
And you're saying there's no reason why, okay, by beating Bristol, they're a game back on them. And then you're looking to go, actually, Sheffield are now 8 and 6. Like, there's actually not, if you get up to 8 wins, or sorry, they'll be at 7 wins, you're 2 games behind Cheshire with games in hand. Like, genuinely, you go, okay, this Surrey slow start where they went, like, it felt like weeks without playing games. Actually, okay, you've got to win the games there.
Mm-hmm.
Surrey are not in a bad place.
Not at all. I mean, if they win both games this weekend, and Newcastle, who, by the way, are playing London and Cheshire this weekend.
Calm down, let's not. We're about to talk about that.
Like, they could easily this weekend hop above Newcastle straight away in one weekend if all goes to plan.
Yeah.
But then one of the teams is in the final of the trophy. Like, it's crazy to think.
All right, let's get on then. Let's talk about. Like, I feel like this weekend needs overhyped. Like, I want the league screaming about this weekend. Like, this weekend feels like a double jeopardy weekend. The games that are coming up. I'm going to quickly read them out.
Let's go for
So
it.
on Friday night, remember Friday night, first game up, Manchester versus Sheffield. Second game, Newcastle versus London. So we've got a trophy final preview. Surrey, we've just touched on, playing the Bristol Flyers. Leicester playing Manchester. It's on Sunday. That's Sunday's first game at 3 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, you then got the Gladiators at Surrey, and then you finish off the weekend with Cheshire versus Newcastle. Like, this just feels like big week. Every one of those games is massive for okay, we're a 9-team league. No one's been blown at the water every game. No one's really miles ahead of everyone. Like, you're in a situation where London play Newcastle on the Friday. Newcastle then travel to Cheshire. Newcastle could drop both those games or even win both those games. Surrey could go 2-0 or 0-2. And then you look at someone like Leicester and Manchester, who are kind of Manchester kind of had a bit of a bounce in the last couple of games as well, beating London and so much or so. Then they did drop a game, didn't they, after that to Sheffield? No.
Cheshire.
And you go, you don't know who's going to turn up for Manchester. Leicester look to be, we've been wanting them to be in that upward turn for a couple of weeks now. We're going like, oh, their roster's that much ready. They're still not above 500. They're 6 and 7. That's another game you go, that's huge. That game's huge. Like, I'm going to ask you a question, guys. When you look at that game, is there any game that stands out more than any other?
I mean, for me, I look at it in that Manchester-Sheffield game on Friday. That's massively, that's really impactful in that for me. I look at that being the first one up, because if Manchester win that, they are basically solidifying 3rd place.
Yep.
And pushing away from Sheffield a little bit. Sheffield win that, they've got same amount of losses in Manchester. Manchester basically need to beat Leicester to keep 3rd place. Puts the pressure on them on Sunday.
And that's where Sheffield losing to Surrey is such a huge result.
Yeah, this is it. It's like I think it's been talked about all year. We talked about like potential, like how close this league can get, but every game matters. Like, and losing to teams that are on the lower end of the table, if you're hoping to be top 2, top 3, you can't afford those games. Like,
yep.
If right now, if you are a Sheffield, a Manchester, even a Cheshire to some extent, any loss to Surrey or Caledonia hurts double.
Yep.
Because that's a team that you assume you should be beating and that you should not even be getting close to.
Like, your game of the weekend to look forward to?
I'm going to be different. I
guess that because there's so many good games. Like, genuinely, I think this is my most excited weekend of the season.
I mean, it is going to be sick. To be on theme, I'm going to select Manchester Leicester.
Oh.
Talk to me why.
Yeah. Let's hear the reason.
Basically, let me talk. So I feel like that will cement whether Leicester really are like the upward mobility team that I kind of, I kind of expect them to be. And whether, Manchester can kind of be that consistent force. It's kind of like the upstart kind of Leicester Riders, which is kind of weird to say, but now they've got Raekwon Battle and kind of Donald Carey is basically it. And obviously the kind of topsy-turvy Manchester. So I feel like it'll be a good indicator for where their seasons are kind of headed. And yeah, I just thought I'd be a little bit different. So,
well, I'm going to be different again and say Cheshire Newcastle.
I mean, that game's going to be spicy.
That could be tasty. Sheffield Cheshire, looking to win again, but get a little bit of revenge on losing the tie. I think we kind of touched on how big a game it is for Newcastle, especially depending on how that London game goes at home on the Friday. Like travelling to Cheshire on the Sunday, I'm guessing it's the late game on the Sunday. Like they could know by that point, actually, Surrey are right on top of us.
If Cheshire win that game, they're the second team to reach 10 wins this season.
Yeah. And when you look at it the other way, you go, I guess Cheshire are kind of almost cementing themselves as second place team. Matt Hardy's not here, but he didn't say that would happen.
He didn't indeed.
He didn't indeed. But you go, okay. That, like, to me, genuinely, we could go for each of those games and each say a reason why we're excited for that game. Like, Surrey, Bristol's huge because, well, Bristol, we've been so impressed with them this season, but why are they beginning to lose some traction? Surrey, though,
Surrey getting better with Tyrone Lawrence.
Yeah.
And then what's
the other game there's so many other game we've not touched on then is then the Gladiators at Surrey, but we kind of said how big a game that is for both of them when we're talking about Surrey. Like that's almost a 4-pointer alone, that game.
I mean, even Newcastle London, they didn't touch on that. Like that being also
the dress rehearsal.
It's a preview of the final, but that puts that little bit of if Stoke wins that game in Newcastle, puts a little bit of confidence into him going into the final. If the Sabonis wins it, and he wants to, remind them that we're top of the league for the reason. We're going to make sure it's a confident win going into that final. Like,
yeah. Or is it tipping the hat? You don't want to show too much.
We've still got a month or so roughly before the final. I think we've got a bit of time for these guys to add new stuff in for that final.
Like I genuinely think this, of all the weekends of this season, this is the big weekend so far. Like 3 teams with double headers. Like we find out more about Manchester. We find out more about Newcastle. And then is there someone else with a double header? Have I just made that up, or is that the only 2? That is the only 2. But we find out so much about teams and what can happen. Like it just feels as if like we're at the turn of the year, obviously. We're not really at the halfway point of the fixtures. But this feels like such a momentous weekend. So get down, watch it. Game in person, get you on your phone, watch the streams. It's almost annoying that the Friday night games are all at 7:30. But on Sunday, I suppose you could almost watch every game. Almost back to back. You'll need to watch, there's only an hour between the Gladiators game and the Leicester game, but you'll be able to watch the next game as well. So that just sounds awesome. Like big weekend of basketball. You might have snow. You could have torrential rain. It could be icy and cold. Why would you want to go do anything else? Like genuinely, I think this is weekend. Like I'm hyped for this weekend. I don't know if you can tell.
Just a little bit.
Like proper hyped. Everyone should, if you're not going to a game, should watch Caledonia versus Surrey because you'll hear how hyped I am about that one. I think I'm winning that game. But right, moving on. We're kind of almost changing track a wee bit. Bristol confirmed today that Dugalich is out for 3 months with an injury. I feel like we do talk about this often, or every couple of weeks or every couple of months, sorry. It does just feel like we've got to a stage where we've got rid of back-to-backs, but I feel like more players are having more substantial injuries. Whose phone is beeping because it's annoying me?
Mitch.
It's probably me.
But do you know what I mean? It's almost like we're getting to a stage of the season where every team, and if I say miss a team out, they'll say, "Oh no, we've had injuries." But it does feel every team has been substantially hindered this season by injuries. We've seen really short rosters at Caledonia. We've seen even London playing with 7-8 players. We've seen Newcastle quite often down to the bare bones. Bristol have been okay up to this point. Cheshire, Pat Robinson missed a few games. Kyle White's missed a few games. I feel like I go for every Leicester. Nate Martin was missing games, and Dooku's is out. I feel like Surrey, obviously they've had loads as well. Queely's out. Coons again's been just like ever injured. Manchester maybe less so as well. But why do we think that is? Like, we've got rid of the back-to-backs. It's a busy schedule at times. Players traveling up and down the country. You look at the NBA. It feels like there's more and more injuries at top. It just feels like there's more injuries in top level basketball, or top level sport as well. We had a wee bit of a chat about this before we got going. But when we look across the league, like, injuries is such an important part, or a big part, and you can almost understand then, is this a reason that the league increased the limits on imports last season? And you could almost say that's a good justification. People will say I'm wrong. But do you know what I mean? Like, it just feels we're getting big players missing at big moments. Mitch?
I think it's a factor. I think the decision probably was a reason why was if injuries are coming up more regularly, need to have a higher standard of player. My counter to that would be, you look at other leagues of a similar ilk, are they also changing their league structures to facilitate more import players because of that issue? Not really. This is more of a, we're on the way up, trying to raise our standards sort of thing at SLB. My kind of thoughts on it, well, I won't go on the soapbox fully. We'll have a dialogue about this one rather than let me just talk forever. But
we want it, man. We want it. Get on the soapbox.
Let's make a dialogue first, and then we'll worry about the soapbox later. I think there's a few factors that come into it, but I think that if we're consistently seeing these injuries popping up over and over again, and the severity of them is quite major, like we're seeing guys missing 2-3 months sometimes season-ending injuries, and that's become more and more of a regular thing. Part of that, I think, is the evolution of the game and the fact that the game has become faster and more explosive. So we're seeing more high-impact, high-damage injuries happening as a result of that. But part of it also has come down to how much we're actually taking care of player welfare beyond just reducing back-to-back games. That's all well and good, but how are our players recovering? How are our players being treated off the court to actually get the best out of them? I mean, strength and conditioning wise, there's only so much you can do to rebuild muscle in a short period of time in a week, from games plus 3-4 days of practice, plus then going out on the road to play again. Your goal is to maintain as much as you can. And if you're not doing that properly, injuries are going to start happening. And injuries aren't always a freak accident. Overuse is a thing for a reason.
Is this where, and it's just to kind of understand more of what you're saying there, because you know what you're talking about. Is this when you see some teams diving into a bit of tech stuff and managing players in terms of their load and understanding their work habits? And is this a case where S&C, like players maybe in pre-season aren't doing the right S&C or committed enough to their S&C and, oh yes, maintaining it for the season? Like, I always just remember back in the day, player recovery in terms of, this is going back 20 years probably. Players used to get changed, go McDonald's and head home.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like, how much is that is the modern player? Like, the game's faster, the game's more athletic, the game's totally different to what it was 20 years ago. But like, I see teams leaving play sport within 20 minutes of the game finishing. Those teams are then jumping on a bus for X amount of hours or jumping to an airport to fly home. Like, that's not it. Jumping on a plane or a bus as a pro athlete pretty soon after the game is never going to be good.
Going into air, like that pressure change alone for circulation is going to cause issues potentially. But I mean, from my opinion on it anyway, I think it's taking that time to do those small little details is going to have a knock-on effect. And the tech side of things is definitely part of it, because it can help, because it can help you tailor how you train individuals rather than just as a collective, as a team. We're kind of past the stage now where you can do one workout fits all. They don't really have that excuse anymore. We are better than that.
Yeah.
The game is faster, it's more intense. There's a lot more high intensity, there's less breaks in play compared to that of before. You look at look at Bristol, how Bristol are playing this season compared to how they were playing 4 or 5 years ago in the BBL. Like, it's a very different style of play they've adapted. Part of that is adaptation to the modern game and how the game is being played. That slow, back to the basket, post up, feed the post player all the time style isn't really the norm anymore across a lot of leagues. It's a lot faster and more intense for a reason. What happens next is, well, you have to take care of the bodies in some way, shape, or form. And jumping on a bus 20 minutes after a game, not prioritizing recovery of your players is going to have a negative effect. If you're sitting on a bus for 8 hours after a game, that's not going to be healthy to anybody.
So is that a case where we've increased our talent level of our imports and probably our homegrown players as well? But as a league, we're just not there yet in terms of it is player welfare. Like, it is. Obviously, we've got rid of back-to-backs, which is, I think everyone would say yes, it is better. But like rushing to get a flight 20 minutes, half hour after the game, or to jump on the bus to get down the road, rather than say stay overnight near the venue or halfway or something, just to even break up a journey. Like, is that just where, and I don't know, clubs will all do things differently. Like, and maybe have priorities of budget spend, like spend a night in a hotel nearby so that the players aren't rushing, they can relax, have a better meal, be able to use not every team, but a lot of teams are traveling with physios, so all the players can get a massage or recovery, or do you know what I mean? Like, it just feels like if you're rushing off to an airport or on the bus because you want to get down the road or up the road or whatever, like, you're not prioritizing the player. That's maybe budgetary reasons.
I mean, just to interject
you interject. It's hard to know when we can't see you, so interject.
Oh, that's a dig. Anyway, anyway, look, like I was watching the game yesterday or Sunday. It's yesterday Sunday. Yes, it was. Sorry. Basically, I'm seeing players like dap each other up after the game. Like, there's no cool down. Like, there's literally no cool down. Like,
Leicester are definitely a team that all sit in a circle. Newcastle sometimes do it, but Leicester definitely sit. Don't they? You've seen them sitting on the court before, Mitch, haven't you?
Yeah, multiple times. And I saw Newcastle do it at Cheshire at the weekend, actually, too.
Yeah. Anyway, go, Louis, go.
Yeah, but stuff like that. And as you were talking about data, you can use that, as I assume kind of London probably do, considering how they manage rotations. You can use that to track like high intensity sprints like you do in football. Use that to track like distance covered, etc. So you can kind of see when players are in like a red zone of, how much is too much, essentially, to talk about what Mitch was saying about overtraining. How much is too much kind of workload, essentially. So you can use that, which would be like an advance in kind of how we deal with players and player welfare, etc. And stuff like nutrition, like, not to diss on like the sponsorships. I hope they have the fun occasional like meal at Slim Chickens, but
other chicken places are available.
Other chicken places are available, and also Slim Chickens are very good. Slim Chickens is very good. Please don't take this as negative. But
Slim Chickens gives us some money, please.
Yeah, Slim Chickens. But basically, like, are they actually eating like good food, or are they literally skimping on, like, I don't know, pot noodle? Like, but you get what I mean, right? Like, yeah. Are they actually eating proper food?
Well, I think that's
a big part of it.
Part of the challenge we're comparing us to other leagues is about what do other leagues provide for these teams? Because if other teams are consistently in other leagues anyway, consistently giving players, you're getting a couple of meals covered every day, or you're given some other basic means that should do your cooking. Like, there's a very real chance with a lower budget league that maybe teams that maybe can't afford some of those luxuries, you're basically saying, here's your house, figure it out. Food wise, you're on your own. And we don't know what cooking experience these players have before they come here. They may have never
Yeah, I
cooked
think
before.
that's key. Sorry,
That's
Mitch. I think that's key.
I mean, I've heard some crazy stories over the years of, and you will as well, Mitch, having been in different jobs and clubs. Like, I've known players in the past who have tried to boil an egg in a frying pan for one story.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But that's kind of like, that's almost a way you can make the players take care of themselves better by just bringing them here. If you put priority on nutrition education, actually bringing in nutritionists, not necessarily to cook their meals for them, but to show them what good meals are, what's important for them. Like, because if you think about it, if you've been in a college system where you've been taken care of, you've been given your accommodation, they get your food for you, it's all sorted for you. You're not necessarily paying attention to what's on your plate a lot of the time. You're kind of, it's there, you're eating it, it's doing the job to make you be successful. But once you're on your own in a foreign country where you don't have that support on site all day, every day, then you have to be able to be self-sufficient, and nutrition will be a part of that for sure. And if they're not,
sorry, you go. Sorry, Mitch.
No, it's fine. I'm done.
It's also like how many teams are investing in tech, tracking players. Like, look at every football team. It feels like or even rugby teams are wearing some sort of trackers, some sort of measuring devices. You always see footballers wearing the kind of sports bra type thing. Rugby players the same. They have some sort of tracking tool, and like basketball's different because you do get that start-stop nature, timeouts, players automatically sub in, sub out.
Mm-hmm.
Footballers might go 90 minutes or whatever else and load, rest, recover, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. How many teams do you think are constantly doing that, like proper monitoring players' performance?
One.
I mean, I don't
probably,
know.
and that's London.
I think it's probably more. I think it's probably more than one. I think there's probably 3 or 4 teams that are probably doing that. Just with university connections, sports science department unis are probably want to do the same thing. I would imagine from like a Leicester with Loughborough probably doing that. I would probably probably argue that the Gladiators, not university up in Scotland, are probably going to want to have some sports science department involved in that too.
Well, yeah,
like it's realistically, it's almost it's a wealth of knowledge there in a relatively small sport in the country that's not football or rugby. It's something a bit different. So you'd want to encourage that as much as you can. The challenge you have with that is how much are you relying on that data to drive your decision making? Because as we know, like statistically, sometimes you don't want to take the 100% or the highest percentage shot. Sometimes players don't take that. We're not robots. No player is, no coaches. Like, you will make decisions and trust your gut, and there's a feel for the game that's important. So finding that balance is the real sort of sign of success, I think.
Yeah, I suppose as fans, we want to see the best players in the league playing every game.
Yeah.
Like that's the
best players in the league.
And unfortunately, if you, depending on what outcome you look at it at times, an entertainment product, not just basketball, unfortunately, people want to see that. And you look at some of the clubs in recent games, they've been really short-handed. Like Kyle Jimenez having to play 40 minutes a game for a couple of games. Like, yeah, he played incredibly well, but he had to do that because there was no one else.
I mean, even if you think about like this is completely not like you can't compare it to really the SLB at all. But just think about it for the Denver Nuggets right now. There's worries that
devastated. By the way, Jokic not being in my fantasy team right now is devastating.
But he's now supposedly going to be potentially an ACL tear, and like how much impact him not being available is going to have on that city's that production for finance in that city, we don't know. But that's going to impact viewing figures. That's going to affect ticket revenue. Is going to affect everything because he's not there.
Affects my fantasy team.
Like, again, if that consistent availability is there, and he's been really good. Like he's He's
MVP
not
season.
Understatement.
like again, but the fact he's been that consistent and funnily away, it's like you're just taking one of the biggest draws from the entire city away overnight, and that's it. He's gone. He's not going to be here for. Like it's for a league like the SLB where every star player matters. Missing games has such an impact on every little factor. Like we want as many eyes as possible in every single game. We want every single fan that wants to be there at those games thinking that player is going to be there because we want that player available to be there. And long term, players wise, if they want to move on and move somewhere better and move to get a better contract or whatnot, they need to play games. They need to be available. So this is something that rookies should be understanding when they come in. Their agent should be telling them that you want to be here, you want to be a pro long term, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Learn how to eat properly, understand what a good strength and conditioning focus is, and actually put the work in to make it happen. Like I kind of touched on it already. Like if you're the best players are the ones that are available. Like it doesn't matter. You can play. How many times have we seen a player come in 2-3 games, destroy the league, and then just vanish because he got injured? We never saw them again. Like, and we talk about them. We'll talk about them again, but realistically, we never actually think of them as a great player because they play 2-3 games. The players that we saw that were consistently good are players like in more recent history, it's been talked about, like Gino Crandall for Leicester, for example. Like he was consistently good for seasons at Leicester, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he missed like 1 or 2 games total the whole time he was there. Like availability matters.
Totally does. We have somehow talked for almost an hour, chaps, but anyone got anything else to add on that subject?
Yes.
Go
just
for
to
it.
save any Denver Nuggets fans, hyperextension, not an ACL tear.
Thank God for
that. So Grant, your fantasy team is saved.
4 weeks though without him is huge. That could be an 0 for 4 weeks, so that's a disaster. I mean, his numbers are scary, like genuinely just scary. Imagine he actually liked basketball.
Maybe that's his secret power.
This dog, he's not caring.
Oh, yeah. He's incredible. He's absolutely amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. All right. That'll do for the SLB show this week. Thank you to the guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for getting involved in the content. Remember, you can always still buy us a coffee, help us fund the channel, the podcast, whatever we want to call it. We'll be back next week. Enjoy the weekend of basketball in case you've missed it. It's going to be a good one. So enjoy your rest of your week. Happy listening, and we'll be back next week with another episode of the SLB show.